Across the Western world, there is a quiet crisis unfolding, one that's rarely discussed with any seriousness. It's a crisis of male loneliness, of plummeting testosterone, of drowning in a sea of cheap distractions. Men are struggling, and the prevailing explanation we're offered is simple. You are the problem. They tell you your nature is a poison, that your history is a crime, and the solution? To apologize, to attenuate, to become a quieter, smaller, less dangerous version of yourself, to become less you. But what if we've been diagnosing this all wrong? What if the problem isn't masculinity itself, but a society that has systematically dismantled every structure that made masculinity meaningful? This is Deconstructed Male Studio, and in this series, we will explore that question without fear. Let us begin with a core premise we'll return to again and again. Human beings require a script. For most of history, men were given a script: provider, protector, father, leader. These roles weren't arbitrary. They were crystallized by evolution and refined by tradition. They provided a clear path to respect, purpose, and connection. This script was a map. It guided you from boyhood to manhood. It told you what was expected of you, and it offered a reward for fulfilling those expectations: the esteem of your community, the love of a family, and a sense of your own worth. It gave you a mountain to climb. The climb was hard, demanding sacrifice and discipline, but at the top was a view worth the struggle. But in the last 60 years, that script has been aggressively edited, rewritten, and, in many cases, ripped up entirely. The industrial economy that valued physical strength eroded, placed by a service and information economy where brawn became less relevant. The cultural revolutions of the mid-20th century reframed traditional male virtue stoicism, competitiveness, ambition as oppressive relics of a bygone era. The nuclear family, the primary vessel for a man's protective and provider instincts, was redefined by some as a prison, a patriarchal cage, rather than the cornerstone of a stable society. The result? We're left with a generation of men holding a blank page, told to write their own script, but penalized for every instinct they tried to write down. If you express a competitive drive, you're accused of perpetuating toxic masculinity. If you seek the camaraderie of an all-male group, it's dismissed as exclusionary frat boy culture. If you desire to lead and provide for a family, you risk being labeled a patriarch. This isn't liberation, it's a neutering. We haven't been freed from a cage. We've been evicted from our own home, with no new address provided. We've taken away the mountain and left men wandering in a flat, featureless desert, wondering why they feel so aimless. This isn't just a feeling. The data paints a grim picture. We see it in the rising rates of male suicide, the epidemic of loneliness, and the alarming decline in male participation in both higher education and the workforce. We see it in the explosion of what I call substitute gratification, endless hours lost to video games, pornography, and social media feeds. These are not sources of genuine fulfillment. They are anesthetics for a life devoid of purpose. When the traditional paths to earning respect are blocked, men will find other, often less healthy, ways to feel something, anything. Let's be clear about what we're discussing here. We're not talking about oppressing anyone. We're talking about the fundamental human need for purpose. For millennia, a man's purpose was deeply intertwined with his utility to his tribe, his community, and his family. He was the one who stood at the gate, the one who built the walls, the one who hunted for the food. This wasn't about power. It was about responsibility. And with that responsibility came a profound sense of identity and belonging. When society tells men that these instincts are now obsolete or harmful, it creates a deep and painful void. And into this void rushes a host of confusing and contradictory messages. On one hand, men are told to be vulnerable, to open up and share their feelings. But when they do, they often find that the very people who demanded that vulnerability are repelled by it. They are told to be gentle and soft, but society still lionizes men of action, strength, and decisiveness in its movies, its stories, and its leaders. We've created an impossible double bind. Be strong, but not too strong. Be sensitive, but not weak. Lead, but make sure everyone feels like they're leading too. It's a game with no clear rules and no way to win. So, where do we go from here? The goal of this channel is not to yearn for a lost past or to turn back the clock to a time that no longer exists. The world's evolving, and we've got to keep up. But hey, that doesn't mean we lose who we really are. The goal is to rationally analyze our present and forge a coherent future. We must find a new script, one that is compatible with the 21st century, but still honors the timeless virtues of masculinity. In the coming episodes, we'll dissect the lies we've been told, like the notion that male biology is a social construct or a defect to be overcome. Biology isn't a flaw, it's a guide to life. It's the hardware we're running on. You can't build good software on the assumption that the hardware is flawed. We will examine the hard data like the catastrophic social and personal impact of fatherlessness on children, and the well-documented links between low testosterone and depression in men. These aren't just political points, they're real science we really can't ignore. We'll dive into how to find your purpose again. We'll talk about reclaiming physical mastery not for vanity, but because a strong body builds a disciplined and resilient mind. We'll discuss the importance of forging new forms of authentic brotherhood, real-world communities of men who hold each other accountable and support each other's growth. We will look at what it means to be a provider and protector in a modern context, where financial provision might be shared and protection extends to emotional and psychological safety. This is not a journey of blame, but of understanding and construction. This channel is for every guy out there who feels like something important is missing in life, no matter who you are or who you love. It's for anyone who feels lost in the world, like the map you got just doesn't fit where you actually are. The first step to building something new is to clearly see what was broken and why. We have to clear away the rubble of the old structures before we can lay a new foundation. This is a project of restoration, restoring a sense of purpose, direction, and noble identity for men in the modern world. It's not about going backward, it's about finding the path forward. Subscribe, and let's begin to work.